Alright, hello again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD1111 class for the fall 2020 semester at Rankin, I've been doing a series of video presentations based on the textbook we're using for the class, that being Get Programming with Node.js by Jonathan Wexler, a Manning publication. So far I've gone through Unit 1, which a lot of it was just this is what the book is about, and we've gone through, actually that was Unit 0, and we went through Unit 1, where as it says, it taught us how web servers work with Node.js and how to build some content. Now, what we're going to do in this unit is we get into Express, which we'll be using for the rest of the book. And as it says, this unit is about taking your application to a more robust and professional level by using a web framework, and that web framework we're going to use is Express. Now, the author defines a web framework as a predefined application structure and a library of development tools designed to make building a web application easier and more consistent. I would add more professional into that too, from the get-go. So in this unit, as it says, we learn how to set up an application with Express.js and the way that we're supposed to organize our application. We go into the MVC, or Model View Controller architecture, in here. All right, and Lesson 8 introduces us to Express and shows us how to configure it. I should mention to you that I've finally received a PDF of the book, so now when you see this, that's why you're seeing it. All right, Lesson 9 covers routing with Express.js. As it says, in the past we've learned about writing routes from scratch. You'll see how we start doing it in this chapter, and basically the type of concept that we'll use for the rest of the book. Chapter 9 also introduces us to MVC, or Model View Controller architecture. Chapter 10 introduces the concepts of layouts and dynamically rendered views. So up until this point, everything we've done has been working with static content, but now we're going to add the ability to work and do things dynamically. We'll also get into talking about things like EJS, which is embedded JavaScript. Chapter 11, as it says, builds on the preceding lessons, but now we learn how to more professionally handle errors. Finally, in Chapter 12, we go back to our confetti cuisine cooking project, and we rebuild it using Express. As it says, this is your first step into web apps that may feel more familiar. So, Lesson 8, setting up an app with Express.js. Building a web app has become a simpler task. That's one of the big things here. All right, and I would say not just simpler, but for lack of better words, more natural. All right, so we're going to be using a web framework, and as it says, it's a module that offers structure to the application. So in this lesson, we're going to cover the following: setting up Node.js application with Express, navigating a web framework. All right. So Express is one of many web frameworks that's available and that you can use with Node.js. It's probably the one that's the most popular. In fact, when you hear of working with doing full stack development work, you typically hear about MERN or MEAN. And MERN is MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. MEAN is MongoDB, Express, Angular, and Node. But there are other packages that you can learn also, and some of them are shown here: Koa, Hoppy, Sales, and Total. Now, the author talks about the fact that he likes Total because he says that it scales well and it performs the best, but it's not a framework to start with. So because you're working with Node.js for the first time, we'll need some tools to help us along the way. A web framework is designed to offer some common tools. Express.js provides methods and modules to assist with that. It's used by, as it says, new and professional developers alike. And it's like anything else. There's a little bit of a learning curve to not just using it, but using it well. All right. Now, one thing about doing this is we have to make sure that every time we're going to use Express, that we first initialize our project. All right. And when we initialize it, then we can do an install of Express. So, as we've done several times before, got a lot of stuff I've got open here. All right, but let's right mouse click on here and let's GUI bash right here. We'll stretch this up and out to make it bigger. And we'll make this bigger as well. There we go. So let's, we're on the desktop. Let's create a new directory. We can do it from here. And just to show you, I'm going to do a make dir, and then hopefully it's going to come up and show right here. Tell you what, that's fine. We'll do that. And let's just call it Express Example. All right, and there it is. We CD to it. And now we're there. All right, let me widen this out even more. There we go. All right. So, let's see. So we'll keep. That's fine. That's fine. Our first endeavor into express.js. Let's use index. That's fine. No test command. No git repository. No keywords. Sure. And that looks okay. So you can see what we have here. The key thing to realize is right here, this is where the bottom is. We don't have any dependencies. All right, so let me clear this. And you know what? I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so it's easier for us to read. Try to keep stuff on one line as well as possible. All right. So because Express is an external package that doesn't come pre-installed with Node, you need to download it and install it. All right. And just so you do see this, it's not a big thing one way or the other. I don't need that. But let's just look at this. And that is, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to type in express.js. And you'll notice there's an express.js.com. And if you go out there, you will be able to get documentation and some of the other information that exists on that. I think there's another one too, to be honest with you. Let's see. There's the API documentation. All right. So if you want more information, you can go out there to expressjs.com. You probably, you'll want the newest version, so it's -5x-api.com. All right. So the author says if you want to use his, you can, but I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do the npm install express -- save. The key thing to realize about that is when we are putting it in there as -- save, we are basically adding it to the current project. So there it is. I don't need the period. It'll think about it for a bit. You might see some stuff whizzing around on the screen. Okay. So one thing I want you to realize about this, notice it added 50 packages and audited 50 packages. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is when we go back here now to our Express and we look at the node modules file that was created for us, you'll notice this thing is huge. This module right here, this folder that is called node module, if you decide that you're going to go in and if you decide that you're going to go in and use Git with this, all right, this is a folder you want to put into your .gitignore file. And the reason for that is, you know, there's really no reason if you just go back and you reinstall the project, the project, all right, you're going to see it. It'll all come back for you anyway. All right. So the -- save flag, as it says, our application will depend on JS to work, so we want to make sure it's installed. Good. So in the next section, it says here we'll want to go in and create our first Express application. Let's first look at this. What happens if you don't use the -- save flag? What will happen, and I didn't show you this, but if I do come back in here, and if we look again at our package.json file, I'm just going to bring it up here. There's the difference. We now have that dependency that was added. This was not in here earlier. All right, so we have added Express in there as a dependency to our system. If you don't use the -- save, that won't happen. All right, so we haven't gone too far in here, but let's check our time. Okay, I'm fine. To start using Express, as the author says right here, we need to create a main application file and require the Express module. All right, so we need to do this. Now let's look at how this differs from what we did before. All right. First of all, you'll notice we're setting up a constant for our port. We've done that before, but this is where it's new, is starting here. Now remember that when you go in and you require a package, typically the name of the package is the same name that you will use for your variable. That's why we've got Express equals require Express. Then, as it says here, we assign the Express application to a constant that by default most developers call app. All right? And then app.get, what you're going to start seeing is how much simpler as we go through this the routing is going to be. All right. So the author says, save the code, to a file called main.js with your project. You require express.js by referring to the module name Express. I kind of just mentioned that. As the first capstone project, Express offers a way to define a get route and its callback without building out an extra module. All right, if a request is made to the home page, Express catches it and allows you to respond. So when we go out to the home page, it should come back with hello universe. Here we've got a response being sent in plain text. It says, note the Express method send. It behaves similarly to the write that we've done earlier. All right. If we use write, we have to make sure to put an end statement on here. Finally, as it says, we set up the application to listen for requests on port 3000, and we let the user know that they're successfully logged in. I believe I've mentioned this before, but I do want to say just one more time that, again, when you use backticks like this, this means we want to log the string, the express.js server has started and is listening on port. And this right here means port has been defined earlier in the program as a variable. By using the $sign and then including that variable inside of curly braces in the backtick, that will say the Express.js server has started and is listening on port number 3000. Now I wouldn't normally do it this way, but I'm going to anyway. So let's see. Let's do const port equals 3000, express equals require express, and I believe that is case sensitive, app equals express. I'm just copying all the stuff they have in the book here. In fact, let me hit enter a few times here. There we go. App.get. Notice we still have our request and our response. And we're doing some chaining right here. Normally I see it like this. No parameters being passed in, so we put in just the empty parentheses. In fact, let's take this. There's nothing wrong with putting it in Notepad like this. File. Let's do a save as. We're going to put it in our Express example. And we'll save it right there. And we will save it as index.js. Alright. Again, I wouldn't normally create it in regular Notepad, but it worked fine. So let's come back in here. It's still too big for my liking. I like that better. So let's clear node index. Alright, it started and it's listing on port 3000. Again, it grabbed that, as we talked about before, it grabbed that from the variable that we interpolated. So let's go into here. Let's bring up a local host. 3000. Hello universe. Now, what if we put something else in here? Notice it says cannot get /hello. The slash is home, but it's looking for a hello right there. If we just put in a slash, it works just fine. Okay? I think before we come back and talk about NodeMon, which is on page 91 of the text, we'll take a short break.